This Marketplace podcast is supported by Equinix, the world's digital infrastructure company. Looking for the choice and control of hardware with the low overhead and developer experience of the cloud? Deploy Equinix Metal in minutes across 18 global locations, from Silicon Valley to Sydney. Just add Metal at metal.equinix.com.
This Marketplace podcast is supported by OutSystems, the application platform that enables every company to innovate through software. OutSystems accelerates the development of business-critical cloud applications. Build the difference with OutSystems. For more information, visit outsystems.com/action.
A corporate takeover battle takes a rare turn this week. Live from London, this is the Marketplace Morning Report from the BBC World Service. I'm Victoria Craig. Good morning. Tobacco giant Philip Morris and private equity firm Carlyle have been in a billion-dollar bidding battle for UK drug company Vectura. The London-listed firm specializes in inhaled medicines and respiratory treatments, and it's been the target of multiple takeover offers this summer. On Sunday, Philip Morris, which is attempting to shift away from the cigarette business, raised its bid for Vectura to $1.4 billion. That has triggered a so-called quickfire auction, which begins tomorrow and allows new bids to be submitted over the next 5 days. Michael Hewson, chief market analyst at CMC Markets, explains these situations are fairly rare.
It's only happened twice, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years. Once was when Sky and Comcast went to an auction, and then I think earlier this year where G4S went to a similar auction process. So if no new bids are submitted by tomorrow, then it will go into an auction process, which will be formalised on the 17th of August.
And also rare in this process is that Vectura has said it may actually prefer a takeover by Carlyle. And it's interesting because acquisitions by private equity companies usually get a bad rap because their reputation of cost-cutting and preparing companies for a future sale. So what makes this one different?
They're sort of caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. Philip Morris is a tobacco company, the company behind Marlboro cigarettes. I think they've realised cigarette market is in decline. Obviously, the vaping market and e-cigarettes is a growing market. And they want to leverage the healthcare benefits, I think, of an asthma inhaler provider, given the fact that Vectura is working with a UK-based company called Inspira on an inhalant or a respiratory inhalant to deal with COVID. And they've looked at the amount of money that companies like Pfizer are making out of vaccines and thinking, well, maybe there's money to be made in trying to resolve respiratory problems, which are likely to gain in importance, not only as a result of the damage that cigarettes have caused over the years, but also in terms of respiratory illnesses.
But in the end, so Vectura can say which company it might prefer a takeover from, but how much control ultimately does it have in who wins this war?
Well, shareholders still have a say. Both companies, if it goes to a bidding process, will need to get shareholder approval for the winning bid. But nonetheless, this is still in the hands of Vectura shareholders as to whether or not they want to go with Carlyle or whether they want to go with Philip Morris.
Michael Hewson, chief market analyst at CMC Markets. Thanks for breaking this down for us.
Thank you.
Well, shares of Vectura are up about 0.5% today and 42% since Carlyle first submitted its takeover offer back in mid-May. Checking some other numbers now, European stocks are hovering near record highs, helped by upbeat earnings reports today. The Stoxx 600 index is up 0.2%, while shares across Asia ended solidly higher. Well, to Hong Kong now, where leader Carrie Lam says she supports a new Chinese law to hit back at foreign sanctions. It's the strongest signal the autonomous city is set to adopt such legislation, which could impose compliance hurdles on multinational firms operating there. The BBC's Andrew Wood has the latest from Hong Kong.
The United States has put sanctions on mainland and Hong Kong officials, including the territory's leader, Carrie Lam. That's to protest Beijing's imposition of a draconian national security law to suppress dissent in the city, and also the treatment of ethnic Muslims in the Chinese province of Xinjiang. Now, Ms Lam says Beijing wants Hong Kong to incorporate the mainland's anti-sanctions legislation into the territory's mini-constitution, the Basic Law. And if this happens, companies in Hong Kong will face punishment if they obey foreign sanctions against China, while also facing punishment for not obeying them from the countries that impose them. Workers and their families at companies that follow foreign sanctions could be denied visas or deported. Assets could be confiscated. In Hong Kong, I'm the BBC's Andrew Wood for Marketplace.
Across the U.S., leaders are continuing to deliberate about whether and how to implement mandatory COVID-19 vaccination passes to access various public spaces. In France, such rules have been extended this week to cover more venues and modes of transportation. The Health Pass, as it's formally called, certifies the holder has been tested for the virus, vaccinated against it, or recently recovered from it. The BBC's Lucy Williamson has been asking people across Paris how they feel the rollout is going. We find her first talking to locals in a bar.
I can see just walking up outside the door here, there's a sign telling everyone to prepare their health pass. And inside, it's Eloise on duty today.
I didn't have rebellious people. Most people had it, and some of them, had to run to the local chemist to get the test done so they could have lunch with their friends.
And have you been vaccinated?
I will have my second injection on the 11th, so then I'm going to have to wait on my pass. So I'm actually in the same situation.
Yes, you heard that right. The same restaurant staff, now obliged to demand a health pass from customers, don't yet have to have one themselves. Under the new law, they have until the end of August to get vaccinated. Healthcare workers have until the middle of October. Michel, a businessman himself who was having lunch on the terrace with his wife, told me he wasn't that keen on getting vaccinated, but that the new rules had convinced him to do it.
What really bothered me most were the constraints on leisure, sport activities, restaurants. So that's why we got vaccinated.
It's not just bars, restaurants and cultural venues that are covered by the new law. You also now need proof of vaccination, immunity or a negative test to attend routine hospital appointments, visit a retirement home or board an aeroplane or an intercity train. Polls suggest that more than half the country support the use of the health pass to access cafes and restaurants. More than 60% agree with it for long-distance travel. But a vocal minority do not. Weekly protests have grown to more than 200,000 people nationwide in the past fortnight, with some comparing President Emmanuel Macron to Hitler and the health pass to the yellow star used to single out Jews during the Nazi occupation here.
Merci beaucoup.
Back at the bar, there's an irony to all this. Many of the protesters turning out each week were actually much quicker to get vaccinated than people like Michel and his wife. The health pass and its alleged curbs on freedom has alienated some of those who already had the jab, while getting millions more to sign up for it.
That's the BBC's Lucy Williamson reporting there from Paris. And in London, I'm Victoria Craig with the Marketplace Morning Report from the BBC World Service.
Hi, I'm Molly Wood, host of Marketplace Tech, a show that helps you understand the digital economy. How will more of the country get access to better internet? What new jobs will artificial intelligence create or destroy? And what tools will help us survive our already changing climate? We tell the stories behind the technology in our lives. And every weekday, our podcast brings you insight you won't hear on the radio. Check out Marketplace Tech wherever you get your podcasts.